It's been an exciting week for Fox News. Trump squatted down for a two-part chat with Laura Ingraham. They covered a wide range of subjects, including his son, Barron.
You talked the other day about how music was your aptitude as a child. But is Barron's aptitude, in your view, business or politics?
Maybe technology. He can look at a computer. I try turning off his car, turn it off. I turn off his laptop. I said, oh, good. Now. And I go back 5 minutes later, he's got his laptop. I said, how'd you do that? None of your business, Dad. No, he's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like we've got a budding Bill Gates on our hands. Either that or he found one of Daddy's naughty websites. I don't know. Trump's wild bewilderment about laptop power buttons must be very reassuring to those sharp investors who bought his crypto 2 months ago. Look it up. Barron's got some... He had some big shoes to fill. I mean, by the time his father was 19, he'd already bankrupted 6 companies. But his dad is very proud of his son and seems to believe he could take the family business to new heights.
I had my very tall son today he graduated from high school. He's a tall student also, by the way. Pretty tall student. Barron is so tall and handsome now. A very young, tall person. He's a tall one. You know, I have a son who's 6'9". He's a big boy, 6'9". 6'9". My 6'9" son says
yeah.
But he's 6'9". Yeah, I'd say 6'8". And when he stands up, he's on the tall side.
He's tall. Very tall.
He's tall. Very tall. He's very tall. Very tall. He's very tall. He's very tall.
He likes computers. And he's tall. And that's pretty much all he knows about Barron. Back to this interview with Laura, though. It's fun to see two people together on TV with the same hairstyle. It really is. After their sit-down, Trump gave Laura a private tour of the White House. She got to see where they're paving over the Rose Garden. He got to see all the tacky new gold stuff in the Oval Office. And she saw Trump's newly obtained copy of the Declaration of Independence.
And it's very cool.
Oh, my gosh.
Isn't that great? Just went up yesterday.
Wow.
Wait, is that ketchup and mustard all over it? They really need to bring in more napkins for him. Trump also treated Laura to a sneak peek at his famous Diet Coke button.
It's right here. Everyone thinks that's the nuclear. Everyone thinks that's the nuclear weapon. They think it's a nuclear weapon. They say if I press this, it's the end of the world. I think so.
Overnight, a very disturbing new threat from Iran. State TV in Iran aired a video that appears to place a $10 million bounty on the life of Barron Trump, the president's youngest child. The video even shows locations where the 20-year-old is known to spend time. I don't want to even mention those locations. The Secret Service says it is aware of the threat, but won't comment for security reasons. Joining us now is Leon Panetta. He was the defense secretary under President Obama. He was also the CIA director and formerly a member of Congress. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for joining us. At any given time, the president and his family are among the best protected people in the world. But how concerning is this latest Iranian public threat and the apparent bounty on the life of 20-year-old Barron Trump?
Well, I think you have to take these kinds of threats very seriously, especially if they did it over Iranian TV. It's crazy for them to even try something like that, because that would probably result, without question, in an all-out war. And so I think the United States is going to have to take that threat seriously. But I also think Iran needs to be aware of the consequences of doing anything like that. It is definitely not in their interest.
Because the way that video at Iranian state TV aired, it seemed to suggest that perhaps a supporter of Iran, a supporter of terrorism in the United States, should go out and try to kill Barron Trump and then get a $10 million reward for doing so. Is that the way you understood it as well?
Look, Wolf, the threats we've gotten from Iran are very similar. The word goes out that individuals here in the United States might be the kind of terrorists who might attempt that kind of assassination, either on the president or the first family or others as well. That's that's the kind of intelligence we've gotten in terms of Iran's threats. And so it's for that reason that you have to take these kinds of threats very seriously and not assume that it's just propaganda. Iran, from my experience, makes these kinds of threats. You've got to be prepared to deal with it because that kind of craziness can be a reality when it comes to what they do.
And they dramatically have to beef up security for Barron Trump right now. I assume you agree, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me also ask you, Mr. Secretary, about the current U.S. sanctions, the new sanctions on Iran and the threat to punish countries that continue to do business with the Iranian regime. China is Iran's top export partner, and China is severely criticizing these latest new sanctions from the U.S. Is Washington headed for a collision course with Beijing?
Well, I think what's happening, Wolf, is that we've been in a stalemate in Iran. Both sides are running out of options as to what to do. The United States has tried military action that has not brought down the regime. It hasn't stopped them from firing missiles. It hasn't stopped them from closing the Straits of Hormuz. And on the nuclear issue, we're nowhere in terms of trying to decide who controls the enriched fuel and what happens in terms of some kind of inspection regime. None of that is anywhere. And so the United States is now trying an economic approach, D-Day. But on D-Day, when the United States landed, we had a lot of allies landing with us. That's not the case here on this economic D-Day. The reality is that China, nor any of the countries that Iran has traded with, are part of this approach. And for that reason, it becomes very hollow unless you can get other countries, particularly China, involved in making sure that we do everything to isolate Iran. So I do not see this as being a very successful move until they're able to get that kind of cooperation. And I don't see that coming from China in particular.
And on that specific issue, if China is not held to account, Mr. Secretary, will Iran's other major trading partners, such as India and Turkey, for example, be as likely to sever ties?
I think all of them are going to be very cautious before they take action here. Frankly, the United States, prior to making this kind of announcement, should have lined up these countries to support isolating Iran. They didn't do that. In the press conference yesterday, the secretary is kind of hopefully praying that these other countries will come in and support this initiative. That's not a good way to conduct business. You've got to lay that groundwork. You've got to build those allies into the package. They've got to be committed to doing this. Otherwise, as I said, you can say you're going to conduct, a D-Day approach on the economy, but the reality is nobody's going to show up, and that means that, frankly, we're going to continue right now in this forever war. That's the likely outcome of all of these actions that we're seeing now.
We just learned in the last few minutes that the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, secretly traveled to Moscow overnight to meet with top Russian officials. It comes as negotiations to try to end the war between Russia and Ukraine have stalled, and just after the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, announced a strategy to isolate Iran from the rest of the world. Would Russia, you think, support any of this?
Well, my experience is that the axis that involves Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran is very tight. They're all supporting one another. They've provided drones. They've provided weapons. They've provided fighters to one another. And so, I appreciate the fact that we're going to Russia, but the secretary didn't mention Russia, and he really didn't even mention China by name in terms of the kind of difficulties that we're going to run into unless we get their cooperation. I think it's a long shot. I think our adversaries are going to continue to work together, and I'm not sure we're going to make any progress going directly to Russia until the United States makes very clear that we are going to provide weapons to Ukraine to defend itself. If we send that message, they'll pay attention. But just to simply send the CIA director there on a hope and a prayer is not going to do it.
A $10 million bounty on the life of a 20-year-old, broadcast across state-run television. When a sovereign government turns the targeted manhunt of an American president's youngest child into a televised crowdsourcing campaign, the immediate human reflex is sheer revulsion at an act of state-sponsored terror. But that madness did not materialize in a vacuum. It is the backfire of a geopolitical engine that has ground to a complete and absolute halt behind closed doors. Former CIA Director Leon Panetta cut straight through the media fog to expose the uncomfortable reality. Washington had just rolled out a sweeping sanctions offensive designed to thoroughly isolate Tehran, a strategy framed by policymakers as an economic D-Day. Yet history reminds us that Normandy succeeded because the United States stormed that beachhead alongside a massive coalition of committed allies. On this economic landing, however, Washington is standing completely alone. Beijing has not only refused to participate, it is openly and fiercely condemning the measures. Crucial regional trade partners like India and Turkey were never brought into the fold. What we are witnessing is an economic blitzkrieg launched on little more than a hope and a prayer, entirely detached from the painstaking diplomatic groundwork required to make it bite. That systemic disorientation became undeniable when, in that exact same window of time, CIA Director John Ratcliffe secretly slipped into Moscow under the cover of night. It was a desperate scramble for diplomatic traction as Ukraine negotiations stall and the strategic axis binding Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran pulls tighter than ever. Direct military deterrence has failed to bring down the regime. Nuclear negotiations over enriched fuel have completely flatlined, and this latest economic offensive lands hollow without international enforcement. That bounty broadcast over Iranian airwaves is not a demonstration of rising strength. It is the degraded, desperate reflex of a regime backed into a corner, stooping to depraved psychological warfare. Yet on the other side of the ledger, it lays bare the strategic exhaustion of a superpower whose conventional playbooks have completely run dry, leaving both sides locked in a grinding war of attrition where diplomatic paralysis is masked by cold-blooded threats.